The crystal chandeliers of the Grand Victory Hall sparkled above the assembled dignitaries, their light catching on polished metals and ceremonial dress uniforms. 200 years of peace, or at least peace won through humanity's blood and sacrifice in the stellar war, deserved celebration. Captain Jessica Iron Steele stood at rigid attention among the other officers, her dress blues immaculate, trying to ignore the empty seat where her brother should have been. The aging president of the Earth Alliance raised his glass to those who gave everything to protect Earth from Kralaxian aggression. Steele's neural implant buzzed, an urgent priority message flooding her visual cortex. Her cybernetic eye, a gift from Kralaxian shrapnel during her first command, automatically began decoding the encrypted transmission. The message's source made her blood run cold. "Madam President," Steele's voice cut through the festivities like a plasma blade. The entire hall fell silent, hundreds of eyes turning toward her. Breaking protocol during the bicentennial toast was practically treason, but the message streaming across her vision left no choice. "We're receiving a priority black transmission from deep space. Sir, it's from the Kralaxian Empire." The president's face hardened. "The treaty forbids direct communication. This had better be." "It's not a diplomatic channel, sir." Steele's cybernetic eye projected the message onto the hall's central holographic display. "It's their emergency broadcast frequency. They're being attacked." The celebration dissolved into shocked murmurs as the transmission filled the air. The Kralaxian language had always sounded harsh to human ears, but there was no mistaking the panic in these voices. As the universal translator kicked in, the true horror became clear. "This is High Command. Omega-level distress call. Colonies in the Cygnus Arm are going dark. Unknown hostile force. No warning, no demands. They're consuming everything. Military installations, civilian centers, orbital stations, all gone. Millions dead. Cannot establish contact with affected worlds. If anyone receives this, help us. In the name of all species, help us." The message repeated, but Steele was already accessing the attached data packet. Her cybernetic eye processed the surveillance footage, and she felt her organic eye widen in shock. "Madam President, everyone needs to see this." The holographic display shifted to show a Kralaxian colony world. The planet's night side glittered with cities, until something moved across its surface. It wasn't a shadow, exactly. It was as if reality itself was being eaten away, leaving nothing but void in its wake. City lights winked out by the thousands as the phenomenon spread. In orbit, Kralaxian warships, the same deadly dreadnoughts that had once terrorized Earth's colonies, fired everything they had. Their weapons might as well have been firing into empty space. "Preliminary analysis suggests this footage is authentic," Steele reported, her military training keeping her voice steady. "The quantum signatures match known Kralaxian frequencies. This is happening right now." "Those bastards deserve whatever they get," someone muttered from the back of the hall. Steele recognized the voice. Admiral Chen, who'd lost both his children in the war. "Sir, with respect." Steele turned to face him, her cybernetic eye glowing faintly in the dimmed light. "The footage shows civilian population centers being targeted first. Whatever this force is, it's not just attacking military targets. They're systematically exterminating all life." The president sank heavily into her chair. "Captain Steele, your recommendation." Steele straightened her shoulders, feeling the weight of history pressing down on her. Her brother had died defending humanity from the Kralaxians. She'd lost her eye to their weapons. But the void spreading across that colony world. The Kralaxians were our enemies, yes. They're warlike, aggressive, and their attack on Earth was unconscionable. But they're also the only other species we've encountered with technology matching our own. If this force can destroy them so easily. She let the implications hang in the air. The celebration hall, so recently filled with joy and triumph, now felt like a tomb. "We need to convene the Security Council immediately," Steele concluded. Because if something can do this to the Kralaxian Empire, humanity needs to be ready. Whatever's coming for them will likely come for us next. The president nodded slowly. Agreed. This celebration is over, ladies and gentlemen. Captain Steele, prepare a full briefing. God help us all. The Security Council chamber buzzed with tension as Captain Steele stood before the curved table of Earth's highest military leaders. Behind her, a holographic display showed the continuing devastation of Kralaxian space. 17 colonies gone dark in the past 6 hours alone. We fought a 30-year war against these monsters. Admiral Marcus Thompson slammed his fist on the polished table, lost billions of lives, and now they have the audacity to ask for our help. Steele advanced the holographic display. With respect, sir, this isn't about the Kralaxians anymore. Look at the attack pattern. Red lines connected each fallen colony, forming an unmistakable trajectory. Whatever this force is, it's methodically working its way across their empire. But more importantly, she highlighted a series of coordinates. It's moving in a straight line that leads directly to human space. The chamber erupted in heated discussions. Steele's cybernetic eye recorded everything. General Rivera's nervous finger tapping, Ambassador Chen's whitening knuckles, the sweat beading on the Joint Chiefs' foreheads. They were scared, and they should be. My brother died on Proxima 7. Steele continued, her voice cutting through the chaos. Kralaxian plasma cannons vaporized his ship and everyone aboard. I lost my eye in the Battle of Arcturus. Every person in this room lost someone to their aggression. She paused, letting her words sink in. But this isn't about forgiveness. This is about survival. Survival. Admiral Thompson scoffed. Our defense systems air. Useless. Steele projected new footage. This is from 3 hours ago. The Kralaxian 6th Fleet, 50 dreadnoughts, over 200 support vessels, engaged the entity. Watch. The council members leaned forward as the massive Kralaxian warships opened fire on the approaching void. Energy weapons, antimatter torpedoes, gravitational disruptors. The most powerful weapons in known space splashed harmlessly against the darkness. Then, in a matter of minutes, the entire fleet simply ceased to exist. The Kralaxians aren't just our technological equals, Steele pressed on. In terms of pure military might, they surpass us. Their ships are stronger, their weapons more advanced. If they can't stop this, she let the implications hang heavy in the air. Ambassador Chen stood slowly. Captain, are you suggesting we commit Earth's forces to defending our former enemies? The political fallout would be. I'm suggesting we defend ourselves, Steele interrupted. The Kralaxians are buying us time. Time to study this enemy, to prepare, to find a weakness. But if we wait until their empire falls, we'll be facing this threat alone. General Rivera cleared his throat. What makes you think we'd fare any better fighting alongside them? Our tactics, our technology. They're completely incompatible. A slight smile crossed Steele's face. That's exactly why we might succeed. During the war, do you know what the Kralaxians feared most about humans? Our unpredictability. Their military doctrine is based on perfect order, flawless execution. But humans, we improvise. We break rules. We try impossible things and somehow make them work. She advanced to the final slide. Casualty projections if the entity reached Earth space. The numbers made several council members visibly pale. 200 years ago, we proved humanity couldn't be conquered by the greatest empire in known space. Not because we were stronger, but because we were different. Now that same empire is asking for our help. Not because they want to, but because we might be the only species capable of thinking differently enough to find a solution. The chamber fell silent. Steele's organic eye met each council member's gaze, while her cybernetic one recorded their micro-expressions. The vote would be close. The path of vengeance is easy, she concluded. We can watch our enemies burn. But when that fire reaches our worlds, and it will, we'll burn alone. Or we can choose something harder. Something unprecedented. We can fight alongside the very species that nearly destroyed us, and maybe, just maybe, save both our civilizations in the process. Admiral Thompson's face was grim as he reached for the voting panel. You're asking us to bet humanity's future on helping the Kralaxians? No, sir. Steele straightened her uniform. I'm asking you to bet on humanity's greatest strength, our ability to do the impossible when the stakes are highest. The voting commenced, and the future of two species hung in the balance. The stealth carrier Defiance dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Kralaxian territory, its advanced cloaking systems rendering it invisible to both conventional sensors and the naked eye. On the bridge, Major James Running Bear studied the tactical display, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic readouts. Shadow Wolves, gear check. His deep voice resonated through the command channel. One by one, his elite team responded. 20 of Earth's finest special operations soldiers, each chosen for their unconventional thinking as much as their combat skills. Lieutenant Marcus Ghost Rodriguez, his second in command, appeared at his side. Sir, initial scans show heavy damage to the Kralaxian defense platforms. Whatever hit them, it hit them hard. Running Bear nodded grimly. Status of the rendezvous coordinates. Still operational, but barely. Ghost pulled up a detailed scan. The Kralaxian military base is running on emergency power. We're detecting approximately 3,000 life signs. But he hesitated. Speak freely, Lieutenant. Sir, a large percentage of those signatures are reading as juvenile. Children. The bridge fell silent. During the war, the Kralaxians had been portrayed as merciless warriors, their propaganda showing nothing but armies and warships. The idea of Kralaxian children had never factored into human military planning. They're gathering refugees, Running Bear realized. This base isn't just a military installation anymore, it's a shelter. The tactical officer, Sarah Cooper, spoke up. Major, we're receiving the authentication codes. The Kralaxians are ready for our arrival. Running Bear took a deep breath. Shadow Wolves, final check. Remember, we're not here as conquerors or saviors. We're here as professionals. These people were our enemies yesterday, but today they're our students, and tomorrow. He allowed himself a small smile. Tomorrow, they'll be our allies, or we'll all be dead. The Defiance descended through the atmosphere, its cloaking field dispersing the superheated air around it. The Kralaxian base came into view, a fortress of crystalline towers and energy barriers, now scared and dim. Refugee ships of all sizes crowded the landing zones, many bearing damage from desperate escapes. As the team prepared to disembark, Ghost approached his commander one last time. Sir, do you really think we can train them? Their entire military doctrine is built on rigid hierarchy and perfect execution. Our methods are exactly what they need. Running Bear checked his neural interface, confirming the translation software was active. The enemy adapts to patterns. The Kralaxians gave them patterns. We'll teach them to be unpredictable. The landing ramp descended, and the Shadow Wolves emerged into the alien air. A delegation of Kralaxian officers waited, their crystalline armor dulled with battle damage. Running Bear recognized their leader from intelligence briefings. Commander Zexkar, veteran of 3 major battles against Earth forces. The Kralaxian commander stepped forward, his translator crackling to life. Major Running Bear. Once, I commanded the fleet that burned your colonies. Today, I stand ready to learn from you, if you can forgive such bitter history. Running Bear met the alien's 4-eyed gaze. Commander, my people have a saying. The best revenge is living well. Teaching you our ways isn't forgiveness, it's survival. Zexkar's facial plates shifted in what intelligence suggested was amusement. Then let us survive together. But first, there is something you must see. The commander led them through the base. Everywhere, the Shadow Wolves saw signs of desperate preparation. Weapons being modified, defenses reinforced. But most striking were the refugees. Kralaxian children huddled with their caretakers, their normally iridescent scales dulled with fear. In the command center, Zexkar displayed their latest intelligence. The void entity will reach this sector in approximately 14 Earth days. Whatever you plan to teach us, Major, time is not our ally. Running Bear watched the tactical display, his mind already formulating plans. Commander, gather your best warriors. Lesson 1 begins now. Sometimes the best pattern is no pattern at all. Behind him, the Shadow Wolves began unpacking their gear, each member ready to turn centuries of enmity into history's most unlikely alliance. They had 14 days to teach an empire to think like humans. The fate of two species would depend on whether they succeeded. The training arena echoed with the clash of combat and frustrated Kralaxian growls. Lieutenant Ghost Rodriguez ducked under a crystalline blade, his movement fluid and unpredictable. His opponent, a Kralaxian warrior twice his size, struck again with perfect form and missed completely. "You're still thinking linearly," Ghost called out, dancing away from another textbook attack. "Stop trying to calculate the perfect strike. Feel the moment, adapt, surprise me." On the observation deck, Major Running Bear watched with Commander Zexkar. 10 days of training had yielded mixed results. The Kralaxians were exceptional warriors, but breaking 2 centuries of ingrained military doctrine proved challenging. "Your methods," Zexkar's translator crackled. "They defy tactical logic. Each warrior moves differently, unpredictably. How do you maintain unit cohesion?" Running Bear was about to respond when the base's alert system screamed to life. Red warning lights bathed the arena in crimson. "Void entity detected." The announcement blared in both languages, multiple signatures approaching Defense Sector 7. Ghost's training session ended instantly. "Shadow Wolves, combat positions." He turned to his Kralaxian student. "Time to test our theories, warrior. Ready to try something illogical?" The Kralaxians' faceplates shifted, and what they'd learned was determination. "Lead, human. I will follow." Within minutes, the combined human Kralaxian strike team reached the defensive perimeter. The void entities, 3 distinct masses of reality-consuming darkness, approached the outer barriers. "Standard tactics have failed against these beings," Commander Zexkar announced to his warriors. "Today, we try the human way. Lieutenant Rodriguez has tactical command." Ghost's mind raced. The Kralaxian defensive grid was powerful but predictable, exactly what the void entities adapted to, but with some human creativity. "Cooper, access the defense grid's primary protocols," he ordered. "Randomize the shield frequencies, but sync them to our neural patterns. Commander, have your warriors link their crystal tech to our signal." Running Bear watched from command as Ghost's insane plan unfolded. The Kralaxian shields, normally synchronized in perfect harmony, began pulsing chaotically, each section following the erratic brainwave patterns of individual human and Kralaxian soldiers. The void entities struck the shields and recoiled. Their usual method of analyzing and adapting to energy patterns failed against the randomized defense. "It's working," Ghost exclaimed. "Now, Phase 2. Shadow Wolves, activate your quantum scramblers. Kralaxian warriors, channel your weapons through our randomized frequencies. Fire on my mark." The void entities pressed against the shields, trying to analyze the chaotic pattern. That's when Ghost sprang his trap. "All units, mark. Human quantum scramblers. Devices designed to create unpredictable energy signatures, synchronized with Kralaxian crystal weapons." The resulting blast was unlike anything either species had created alone. Beams of impossible energy, following no logical pattern, lanced out from the defensive line. The first void entity, shuddered, actually showed signs of damage. The Shadow Wolves and Kralaxian warriors pressed their advantage, each shot channeled through the randomized frequencies. By the first crystal, Zexkar breathed, watching from command. "They cannot adapt to what they cannot predict." The void entities retreated, leaving behind something no one had seen before, traces of their damaged essence. The combined force had achieved what neither species could alone. They'd hurt the enemy. As the all-clear sounded, Ghost found himself surrounded by celebrating Kralaxian warriors. Their usual stoic discipline had cracked, replaced by very human-like expressions of joy. "How?" his training partner asked. "How did you know it would work?" Ghost grinned. "I didn't. That's the point. Sometimes the best strategy is having no strategy at all." In the command center, Running Bear and Sexcar reviewed the battle data. "This changes everything," the Kralaxian commander said. "With more training, more integration of our technologies, we might have a fighting chance," Running Bear finished. "But we need to move fast. This was just a scouting party. The main force is still coming." Outside, human and Kralaxian soldiers began breaking down the battle, sharing observations and ideas. 2 centuries of hatred were dissolving in the face of shared victory and mutual respect. Ghost watched them with satisfaction. "Maybe the void entities did us a favor," he mused. "Nothing unites old enemies like an impossible fight." The impossible fight was coming, but now, at least, they had a chance. The emergency transmission from Proxima Research Station cut through Major Running Bear's dreams like a knife. "Dad, they're here. The void entities. Oh God, they're everywhere." His daughter Sarah's voice crackled with interference. "Station defenses are failing. If you get this." The message dissolved into static. Running Bear burst onto the Defiance's bridge, his heart pounding. "Status report. Multiple void signatures at Proxima, sir," Ghost responded, already coordinating with their Kralaxian allies. "They've adapted to our previous tactics." The randomized defense grid barely slowed them down. The tactical display showed the nightmare unfolding. Proxima, humanity's proudest research colony, was surrounded by darkness. The station's quantum shields flickered weakly against the assault. "Sarah's leading the research team studying void entity samples from our last engagement." Running Bear's voice remained steady, decades of command experience masking his terror. "If those samples fall into the void." Commander Zexkar's hologram materialized on the bridge. "My battle group stands ready, Major. We will not abandon our allies." The joint rescue fleet emerged from hyperspace into chaos. The void entities had evolved, showing signs of intelligence they'd never displayed before. They moved with purpose, focusing their attacks on the research station's laboratories. "They know," Ghost realized. "They know we're learning about them. This isn't random destruction anymore. It's targeted." Running Bear studied the tactical display, his mind racing. The station's outer rings were already gone, consumed by the void. The central hub, where Sarah's team worked, still held, barely. "New plan," he announced. "Ghost, take the Shadow Wolves and our Kralaxian brothers through the maintenance tunnels. Standard rescue protocols won't work. I want pure chaos. Every team does something different. Give them too many patterns to analyze." "And you, sir?" Running Bear checked his quantum disruptor. "I'm going for my daughter." The next 20 minutes were pure madness. Ghost split the rescue teams into small groups, each using different approaches. Some blasted straight through the void entities with randomized weapons. Others used modified teleporters to jump between sections of the station. One particularly creative Kralaxian team transformed their crystalline armor into quantum mirrors, reflecting the void entity's own energy back at them. The entities, trying to adapt to multiple strategies simultaneously, began showing signs of confusion. Their perfect coordination faltered. Running Bear fought his way through the station's deteriorating corridors, his neural link desperately searching for Sarah's signal. Emergency lights cast strange shadows, making it impossible to tell where the station ended and the void began. He found her in the quantum physics lab, leading her team in a desperate effort to save their research. "The samples," she shouted over the chaos. "They're not just studying us. They're learning, evolving. But we found their weakness. A void entity burst through the wall, reality warping around it. Running Bear raised his weapon, but Sarah stopped him. Wait. Watch. The entity approached the containment field holding samples from their previous battle. As it drew closer, both samples and entity began to vibrate at increasing frequencies. They can't adapt to themselves, Sarah explained, downloading data as her team evacuated. Their own quantum signature, when properly amplified, creates a feedback loop they can't process. The station groaned, structural integrity failing. Explain later. Running Bear grabbed the samples. Ghost, begin final extraction. The rescue teams pulled out in the same chaos they'd arrived in, each using different methods. The void entities, already struggling to process multiple attack patterns, couldn't coordinate a proper response. Back on the Defiance, Sarah's team immediately began analyzing their findings. The samples, combined with combat data from the rescue, painted a startling picture. They're not just destroying worlds, Sarah explained to the gathered human and Kralaxian commanders. They're processing them, learning from each civilization they consume. But their need to understand, to adapt, it's also their weakness. Ghost nodded. That's why our chaotic strategies work. They have to understand something to consume it. And humanity, Commander Zexkar added, defies understanding. Running Bear looked at the tactical display, watching the void entities regroup. They'd won this battle, saved the research, and discovered a crucial weakness. But the war was far from over. Send the data to all allied ships, he ordered. The real fight is just beginning. The void entities had made a critical mistake. They'd attacked a father's daughter, and in doing so, given humanity exactly what it needed. A way to fight back. The captured void entity vessel hung in space like a tear in reality itself. Inside, Captain Jessica Iron Steel stood before the joint human Kralaxian science team, her cybernetic eye scanning the bizarre architecture around them. The interface is ready, Sarah Running Bear announced, adjusting the neural connection equipment. But Captain, the risks. She glanced at the dark, pulsing walls of the alien ship. We don't know what connecting with their technology might do to a human mind. Steele watched her reflection in a crystalline surface, half her face organic, half cybernetic. Your research shows human brains disrupt their network. That's why they've escalated their attacks since Proxima. We're not just a threat anymore. We're a puzzle they can't solve. Commander Zexkar stepped forward, his crystalline armor resonating with the ship's strange energy. Our attempts to interface with their systems failed. Our minds are too. He searched for the word. Ordered. Predictable. Then let's show them some human chaos. Steele sat in the modified interface chair, neural connectors snaking toward her ports. Besides, my cybernetic systems should provide some protection. Sarah began the connection sequence. Ghost and his shadow wolves stood ready, quantum disruptors primed in case something went wrong. The ship's walls pulsed faster, as if sensing what was coming. Interface in 3, 2, 1. Reality shattered. Steele's consciousness exploded into the void network. It was nothing like the ordered data streams of human or Kralaxian systems. This was pure chaos, but a chaos-seeking order, endless patterns trying to understand and absorb everything they encountered. Through the haze, she felt them. Billions of absorbed minds, each processed and stored, their knowledge added to the collective. But they weren't destroyed as everyone had thought. They were transformed. They're not just destroying civilizations. Steele's voice echoed strangely in the interface chamber. They're trying to perfect them. Remove chaos. Create ultimate order. The void entities noticed her presence. She felt their confusion, their desperate attempt to analyze and categorize her thoughts. But human consciousness flowed too freely, jumped too randomly between ideas. They can't process us, she continued, sweat beading on her forehead. Human creativity, our ability to make intuitive leaps, it's like a virus in their system. They can't predict. Arg. The void network surged. trying to force her consciousness into recognizable patterns. Her cybernetic systems flashed warning signals, but Steele pushed deeper. "Captain," Ghost's voice seemed distant. "Your neural patterns are destabilizing. We need to." Wait, Steele had found something. There's a structure to their network. Not order, exactly, but intent. They're all connected to. There. Her cybernetic eye projected what she was seeing. A massive neural map showing connections between void entities. At its center, a single point pulsed with impossible energy. A central consciousness. Sarah breathed. They're not individual entities at all. They're projections of a single being. Steele's organic eye snapped open. And it's afraid of us. Not just our weapons or tactics. Our minds. Human consciousness is the only thing it's encountered that it can't predict or control. We're the chaos in its perfect order. The interface overloaded. Steele convulsed as Sarah and Ghost disconnected her from the system. The void ship's walls writhed, its systems fighting against the disruption she'd caused. Commander Zexkar helped her stand. "What you discovered, it changes everything. A central point means a single target. But it's not that simple." Steele steadied herself. "I felt its power. Conventional attacks, even our chaos tactics, won't be enough. We need to get inside its network, disrupt it from within. And for that, we need more human minds," Sarah finished, "connected directly to their network, creating maximum chaos." Ghost checked the ship's readings. "The Void Fleet is already adapting to this incursion. Whatever we're going to do, we need to do it fast." Steele looked at her assembled team. Humans and Kralaxians, scientists and warriors, all united against extinction. "Send word to both governments. I know how to defeat them, but it's going to require something unprecedented. The largest synchronized chaos attack in history." The void entities had sought to perfect the galaxy by eliminating chaos. Instead, they'd awakened humanity's greatest weapon, the beautiful unpredictability of the human mind. Now they would learn why chaos always defeats order in the end. The void entity's central consciousness pulsed like a malevolent star, its surface writhing with stolen realities. Before it, the combined human Kralaxian fleet looked impossibly small. Major Running Bear stood on the Defiance's bridge, surveying the largest military force ever assembled. "All neural interfacing teams report ready," Ghost announced, his own interface gear gleaming. "Kralaxian crystal tech is synchronized with our quantum networks. Captain Steele is standing by in the primary hub." Running Bear nodded grimly. "Begin the approach." And Ghost, "It's been an honor." The fleet moved in perfect chaos, each ship following its own random pattern, making it impossible for the void entities to predict their trajectory. On thousands of ships, human volunteers prepared to connect their minds directly to the enemy network. "They're responding." Sarah's voice came from the science station. "Multiple void projections forming, more than we've ever seen." The space between the fleet and their target turned black as void entities materialized by the hundreds. This was the enemy's full strength, the complete extension of the central consciousness. "All ships, execute Operation Wildfire," Running Bear commanded. "Every vessel fights its own way. Show them the true meaning of chaos." The battle erupted like a supernova. Kralaxian dreadnoughts fired crystalline beams that refracted through human quantum scramblers, creating weapons that denied physics itself. Shadow Wolf strike teams, paired with Kralaxian warriors, teleported between void entities, placing disruptors that pulse with random frequencies. But the real attack was happening inside the network. In the neural hub, Captain Steele led the interface assault. Thousands of human minds poured into the void's consciousness, each thinking differently, creating a storm of unpredictability that the entity couldn't process. "The outer defenses are failing," Sarah reported, "but the central mass is adapting. It's trying to synchronize our thoughts." Running Bear watched through the tactical display as void entities began moving with new purpose, cutting through their lines. "They're learning. adjusting to our patterns faster than before. Then let's give them something really chaotic. Ghost grinned. Sir, permission to try something monumentally stupid. Running Bear recognized that look. Granted, but try to keep my daughter's ship intact. Ghost's plan was insanity itself. He coordinated with Sarah's science vessel, using its experimental quantum drives, to create a localized time dilation field. Inside it, their ships could fight in accelerated time, making them appear to teleport randomly from the void entity's perspective. It's working, Sarah exclaimed. They can't predict where we'll be because we're fighting in multiple time streams. But the central consciousness was far from defeated. It lashed out with impossible power, consuming entire ships in seconds. The void entities began moving in spiral patterns, creating a web of dark energy that threatened to trap the fleet. We need to reach the core now. Steele's strained voice came through the neural link. The human minds. We can't maintain this chaos assault much longer. Running Bear made his decision. Ghost, Sarah, take us in. The Defiance plunged toward the central mass, Ghost's insane time-dilated maneuvers carrying them through gaps in the void entity's defenses. Sarah's modifications pushed the quantum drives far beyond safety limits. Hull integrity failing, the computer warned. Structural collapse imminent. Just a little closer. Running Bear gritted his teeth as the ship shuddered. Around them, the combined fleet pressed their attack, creating the most beautiful chaos the galaxy had ever seen. They reached the core. Now, Captain, Running Bear ordered. In the neural hub, Steele released her final weapon. The pure, unfiltered consciousness of every human mind connected to the network. Not attacking, not defending, just being, thinking, dreaming, creating impossible ideas and random connections that defied logic itself. The central consciousness tried to adapt, to understand, to impose order on the flood of human thought. In doing so, it made its fatal mistake. It opened itself completely to their minds. Reality trembled. The void entities froze, caught between order and chaos, unable to process the infinite possibilities of human imagination. Their perfect patterns shattered under the weight of dreams and creativity and endless, wonderful chaos. External void signatures are collapsing, Sarah reported, wonder in her voice. The central masses, transforming. Where the consciousness had been, a new kind of space was forming. Not void, not normal reality, but something in between. A place where order and chaos danced in perfect balance. They had done the impossible. Humanity's greatest weakness, its unpredictability, had become its ultimate strength. The void had sought perfection through order. Instead, it found transcendence through chaos. 3 months after the Battle of the Void, Major Running Bear stood before the newly constructed Star Guard Academy, watching human and Kralaxian cadets train together in the morning light. The crystalline spires of the academy blended seamlessly with Earth architecture, a physical symbol of their unprecedented alliance. Still expecting it all to disappear, Ghost approached, wearing the new Joint Forces uniform with its combined insignia, like some crazy dream. More like wondering what comes next, Running Bear replied, watching Sarah lead a class in quantum mechanics. Her research into the void entity's remnants had revolutionized both species' understanding of consciousness and reality itself. In the training yard, a Kralaxian instructor demonstrated their crystal tech, while a shadow wolf explained human chaos theory. The two approaches, once thought incompatible, now complemented each other perfectly. Latest reports from the transform zone. Running Bear asked, though he already knew the answer. Ghost pulled up a holographic display. The void consciousness didn't die. It evolved. That space where it used to be. Scientists are calling it the chaos matrix. It's like a bridge between order and randomness. They watched as Captain Steele's ship emerged from hyperspace, returning from another expedition into the transform zone. Her neural interface experiments had made her the foremost expert on communicating with whatever the void entities had become. Captain on deck. Someone called out as Steele approached, her cybernetic eye glowing with new purpose. "Major Lieutenant," she nodded. "You're going to want to hear this. We made contact again, deeper in the Matrix than ever before. Those billions of minds that were absorbed, they're reconstructing themselves. Not as they were, but something new. A civilization that exists between chaos and order." Running Bear absorbed this information. "Are they a threat?" "No," Steele smiled. "They're asking to learn from us. All of us. They've realized that true perfection isn't the absence of chaos. It's the balance between chaos and order. They want to understand how humans and Kralaxians achieve that balance." In the distance, a training exercise demonstrated this balance in action. Kralaxian crystal ships, piloted by mixed-species crews, performed maneuvers that would have been impossible for either species alone. Their perfect formation suddenly broke into controlled chaos before reforming in an entirely new pattern. "The Shadow Wolves are evolving too," Ghost noted. "New recruits from both species, combining discipline with unpredictability. We're creating something that's never existed before." Sarah joined them, carrying new data from her latest experiments. "The void entities didn't fail in their mission," she explained. "They just didn't understand what perfection really meant. They needed us, all of us, to show them." Running Bear watched a group of cadets, human and Kralaxian children who would have been mortal enemies a year ago, working together on a quantum engineering project. And what happens when we encounter the next threat? The next species that thinks they found perfect order. That's why we're here. Steele gestured to the Academy. To teach the next generation that strength doesn't come from perfect order or pure chaos. It comes from understanding both. A alert chimed softly. Ghost checked his neural link. Long-range sensors are picking up unusual readings from beyond the rim. Could be something new out there. "There's always something new out there," Running Bear smiled. "That's why the galaxy needs us. All of us." The Academy's central spire caught the morning sun, sending rainbow refractions across the grounds. Human innovation and Kralaxian crystal tech, chaos and order, old enemies and new allies, all reflecting together in endless possibilities. Assembled the senior staff, Running Bear decided, "Whatever's out there, we'll face it the way we face everything now, together, with perfect chaos." As the others moved to comply, he took one last look at the Academy. 2 centuries of war had nearly destroyed both their species. But in the end, it wasn't their strengths that saved them. It was their differences, their ability to change, to adapt, to find balance in seeming contradiction. The void entities had sought to perfect the galaxy by eliminating chaos. Instead, they had sparked the greatest change of all. The day enemies became allies, and the galaxy learned that true perfection was never about order or chaos. It was about having the wisdom to embrace both.